FAR-AIM 2025 61.5 to 61.7 on the private pilot check ride prep. These are all the skipped chapters that will be not gone over for this video, because none of these chapters will be required for you to understand or know on your check ride date. Then we jump on to 61.5, certificates and ratings issued. So the certificates issued is the student pilot, recreational pilot, private pilot, commercial pilot, ATP, flight instructor or CFI, ground instructor, then a sports pilot. Then is your ratings issued. The ratings issued is like what type of plane you're able to fly or you're qualified to fly. So that is like a category or a thing that's flying. Then we got a class, which is a single engine, multi-engine, or like a seaplane, stuff like that. Then a type is like those heavy aircrafts that weighs over 12,500 pounds and it has like a turbojet engine. Then certificate details for your private pilot. You will receive, after completing your check ride or passing your check ride, you will receive your private pilot certificate with a category of the airplane and then a class of the airplane from the endorsements. Then the type rating requirements. So type rating requirements, you will need an aircraft that is larger or weighs more than 12,500 pounds, turbojet powered, but it's really not required for your private pilot license. Then we have certificate validity, valid until surrendered, suspended, revoked, issued, or electronically by the FAA. So that means if you are suspended of your private, revoked, or you're disqualified from your private pilot license, that's typically like failing a drug test or failing your medical. That's type of revocation until, but out of everything, it would last forever until that's suspended. Then some questions that the DPE might ask you: what is a category and a class? Will be in your private pilot certificates. Basically, define a category and class and type rating. So define a category. A category is a thing that flies. Then class is what's different. Does it have more than 2 engines? Is it a seaplane, land plane, etc. Then a type rating weighs over 12,500 pounds and has more than 2 engines and is a turbojet power airplane. 61.11 Expiration of a pilot certificates and reassurance. A person who holds a expired certificate cannot act as pilot in command, unless certain certain things that will happen, maybe like an emergency or something. But you're not allowed to act as pilot in command because you're not a valid private pilot, or your pilot certificates isn't valid. Even though the pilot certificates generally do not expire, some certain ratings or special certificates may have expiration dates. And then to be a current pilot, you must have your medical certificate valid, and they do expire based on your age. Then we have 61.13 Issuance of the Airman Certificates, Ratings, and Authorizations. The FAA may issue pilot certificates, ratings, and authorized only if the applicant meets all of the requirements of Part 61. That's basically you pass your medical and your pilot certification, your private pilot certs. Denial or refusal to issue. The FAA can revoke or suspend your certifications if the applicant does not meet the requirements, or has fraud or falsification documents that has demonstrated unsafe practices or violations. And a good example is writing false claims on your logbook, or writing false maintenance record to keep your airplane up to date. Those are some good examples. Certificates and ratings included. Applies to all of your certificates like private pilot, student pilot, commercial pilot, ATP, instructor, etc. And ratings for category, class, and type. Then the validity of certificates. Certificates are valid unless surrendered, suspended, or revoked, or demonstratively cancelled. Why 61.13 is important for your private pilot check ride, because you should know the requirements for the FAA checks before issuing your private pilot certificates. So the DPE or the FAA will check your background if you meet the requirements to pass your certificates or ratings. Understand that any FAA can deny issuance if you fail to meet standards or false or fake information. Be prepared to explain the general process of criteria and certificates issued during your oral exam. 61.15 Offenses involving alcohol or drugs. It is illegal for any person to operate an aircraft when your alcohol blood level is greater than 0.04% within 8 hours before flying. That means you can't drink alcohol that's over 10 hours before, over 8 hours before you flying an aircraft. But if you do drink alcohol within the 8-hour time frame, you are not legally required to fly. Then we have reporting and requirements. So if you do get like a DUI, or if you do get caught drinking and driving, you must report that issuance to the FAA 60 days to the hazardous safety something, FAA state, whatever. But you must submit it within 60 days to the hazardous safety. It has some other words, but I think those are things but you must submit it within 60 days. Then we have certificate actions. The FAA can suspend, revoke, or refuse for issuance of certificates or medical certificates based on your record of your drug or alcohol offenses. Then we have safety emphasis. The FAR supports FAA zero tolerance policy on substance abuse for pilot to maintain safe aviation operation. Then we have some penalties. So if you do get suspended, you are suspended for 1 year from the dates. It's not calendar month. It's from the date that, from the start of your suspension to the end. So let's say I'm suspended on August 5th, 2025, then I won't be that. Then the suspension will hold until August 5th of within 2026 of the next year. So it's not calendar months. Then permanent revocation. It is possible, or like some serious violations or legally laws that you've committed. If something that happens, you are permanently revoked from your private pilot license. Legal consequences may include fines, imprisonment under federal law. This is important on your private pilot license because the DPA will, like 99%, talk about it on your check ride, because it is a pretty big subject and you must know it for your check ride. 61.16 Refusal to submit a blood, breath, or urine test. If you do refuse to test for a blood, breath, or urine test by the FAA, you will still be suspended for 1 year for the dates of the refusal. If you then after the 1 year, if you do it again 2 times in a row, you're going to be suspended for 2 years. Then the tests are related to drug or alcohol tests used submitting during aircraft operations. So let's say you're flying for an airline, like one of those big type rating planes. During operation or before you're about to board aircraft, you will be sometimes, I don't really know, but I've seen this. Some pilots are drug tested and some has been arrested if you do fail that test. So they can happen during aircraft operations. Reporting requirements. Refusal must be reported to the FAA and may lead to enforcement actions, including certificate suspension. Safety purpose ensures compliance with regulations designed to keep flying safe from impairment by alcohol or drugs. Then we have 61.17 temporary certificates. FAA does issue temporary airman certificates immediately after passing your test and meets the eligibility requirements. Like immediately you pass your check ride, you'll be issued your temporary airman certificate, and it is valid for 120 days until the permanent certificates is delivered or received, or whichever comes first. Privileges. Holders of a temporary certificate may exercise the privilege of a certificate or rating during this period. After passing your private pilot check ride, you may receive a temporary certificate that can legally act as pilot command before receiving your official, like your private pilot card. Why this matters? Understand that you don't have to wait weeks to fly. After passing temporary certificate grants you immediate privileges, like when you pass your driving test, you are given a paper temporary certificate until your card actually delivers. Same with your state ID. So just like same process as that. Know that the time limit and importance of carry the temporary certificate while flying. So you must carry this while you're flying.